When it comes to getting in the fast lane with your music, it's your process that determines your progress. The majority of music artists that I speak to spend most of their time creating and promoting their work. Of course, this makes sense. You have songs worth sharing, you have a performance that will engage an audience, and you have something of value to offer the world. And when it comes to releasing your music, you want as many eyes and ears all over your content. But what if there was a way to ensure everything in the background ran a lot more smoothly? If you're interested in finding out some ways to ensure that happens, make sure you watch this video right to the end. So to illustrate the importance of process, I want to take you back to 2018. I'd been working full-time in the music industry for over 13 years, and I got the opportunity to help loads of people with their projects. The consequence was that I never got to do any of my own projects. It'd been literally 10 years since I'd shared any of my own songs. And I thought it was time to do something differently. So I had a New Year's resolution. On the 1st of January 2018, I decided I was going to get up half an hour earlier each morning. And I devised a 5-step devotional routine, part of my spiritual practice as a Christian. And one of those steps was to compose something. The objective was never to finish a song. It was simply to create something each morning. I love creating. It's great to explore, to try new things. And I would sit in my armchair in my living room with my ukulele, and I'd commit to composing something each morning. It might be a verse and a chorus. It could be a poem. It could be a melody. It could be a finished song. I did this religiously every single day, routinely. And after about 3 months, I'd finished 40 songs. And I thought I needed to start doing something, but I didn't want to follow that journey of being a conventional artist, because you know what? It's hard. I know this firsthand because I work helping music artists day in, day out. So I thought about the process of where to go from here. I had all of these song ideas. I had all of these concepts coming together. But I thought if I just started sharing them without a plan, without a process, it might fall on deaf ears. So my first step was to establish a creative process. I had this routine that I was doing each day, and I'll be honest, I was loving it. I was actually excited to go to sleep at night so I could wake up in the morning and start the day off right and get creative. But I needed to finish some of these songs, and I couldn't do that first thing in the morning. So I decided that once a month, on the first Tuesday, if I recall correctly, of the month, I would go through my voice memos and decide on the songs to work on. Then I'd start to flesh out the lyrics. Then I decided, as part of my process, I was going to book some regular time in the studio with some of my musician friends and start to record some of these ideas. I started to get this process formed, the daily routine of writing, the monthly routine of finishing songs, and the quarterly routine of getting the band together. Fast forwarding several months, I thought I need to share some of these songs. So I went to work on my release process. I decided to do something pretty crazy, and if I didn't have the process, it would have never happened. So rather than dipping a toe in the shallow end and making a single to see what people thought, or pushing the boat out a bit further with an EP or an album, I decided to dive in headfirst into the deep end and share a brand new studio recording, lyric video and blog every single week for 52 weeks. I decided not to do this under the name Andy Baker for the simple reason that if you go to andybaker.com, I just can't compete with that guy. There are loads of other Andy Bakers sharing music, and I thought, actually, I don't want to be a conventional artist. It's really hard. I know this firsthand. I thought, what if I could get a community of people together to share their songs as well, other writers, artists, and churches? And that's how we birthed Homegrown Worship. Now, I probably don't need to tell you how much is involved in releasing a single. There are so many different steps in terms of getting the music together, distribution, administration, marketing. It's pretty relentless. Now, imagine doing that every single week for 52 weeks. And then a year later, you're actually sharing 4 releases every single week from other writers and artists. Now, that's what happened with homegrown worship. It all grew really quickly. And the only reason it grew is because we had awesome processors. In fact, these processors were so good, the military would be proud of them. And I want to help you to become a pro when it comes to processes. Now remember, your process will determine your progress. Now I'm not here to tell you that you need to release a brand new song every single week. In many ways, it was a bit stupid, but it paid off. I had over 20 songs on official editorial playlists at Spotify. We grew a community of over 50 different writers, artists, and churches by the end of 2019. I want to help you to become a pro when it comes to process. So here are some practical steps that you can take to get your processes in order. I'd encourage you to start by breaking down your organization into the creative, the admin, and the marketing department. When it comes to each department, think through key activities which take up most of your time. So let's start with some ideas around the creative department. Perhaps you have a weekly band practice, and every 2 or 3 months you record a new song. You can break down these activities into processes. Create a checklist for each of them. This will help you to be focused, intentional. It will help you to avoid wasting time and wasting energy. When it comes to organizing your band practice, who's in charge of doing that? What method of communication do you use to organize that? Is it really slow and labor intensive? Does it involve 7 rounds of messages on WhatsApp or someone ringing around everyone? Could you have a centralized calendar? Then think through what you want to get out of the practice. Has someone worked out what you need to do? Has someone put together the chord sheets? Has someone brought some snacks and some bottled water to make sure you're not wasting time whilst rehearsing, popping out to the shops? Create a checklist for literally everything. When it comes to recording your songs, have you thought through each and every single step? Things can easily get missed. Booking the studio, remembering to pay the invoice in advance for the engineer so he doesn't fail to show up on the day. It's really important to get detailed when it comes to these checklists. The really cool thing about a checklist is it enables other people to get involved in the process. If a process is in your brain, in your mind, or written on a napkin somewhere, no one will be able to help you with it. You need to get it formalized. You need to get it written down. You need to utilize checklists to ensure that every single thing gets done in the right order. Now you might be thinking, Andy, do we really need a checklist for our band practices? Isn't that all a bit formal? Well, I want to encourage you with this. You've got nothing to lose by getting systematic and organized. At very least, writing out the process, even if you don't use it, will solidify those steps in your mind, and you might find some more effective ways of using your time. You can never get time back, so use it well. When it comes to the admin department, there are so many things that need to be done. It's impossible to remember everything, and if you try to keep everything in your head will probably explode. Plus, when it comes to doing creative activities and marketing activities, you're going to be really foggy. It's not going to be clear. So make sure you map out what needs doing daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. I'd like to encourage you to think about operation manuals. Now, this might again sound really formal and corporate, but essentially, if you go through the things that you already do, put them into a process, into a document, detail the how you can do all of these steps, someone else can help you with them in the future. If you never detail them, you're going to delegate by absence, hoping someone will do a really good job. You need to delegate by empowering people, giving them the benefit of your knowledge, understanding, outlining your expectations. This is how you can grow and scale your organization. And when it comes to the marketing department, there are many processes that you need to perfect. One of these is the release plan. I want to encourage you to be systematic when it comes to releasing your music. If you don't have a framework that you're going through, it's going to be really haphazard. It's going to be really stressful. You're not going to know whether you're coming or going. The thing about developing a plan and a process is that you can revise it, you can refine it, you can get people to look at it and give you some input. Having a process doesn't mean that you get the results that you'd like to achieve every single time, but it does give you something structured to work through so that you can keep improving. So if you want to become a pro when it comes to process, there are 3 things that you need to do, and they conveniently spell out the word pro. Firstly, put things on paper or some kind of digital format, but make sure things are written down. Processes are really difficult to action and scale if they're done anecdotally, if they're put together through some conversation. In the future, people won't remember what was discussed. Make sure things are written down. Secondly, revise your processes. Put a time in your calendar or your project management system to have a look at key processes every quarter or every year. Add some different things into the checklist. Remove things that aren't relevant. Write things up so they're clearer and concise. And finally, obsess over details. You're not going to get very far if you're vague. You're not going to get very far if your communication doesn't articulate precisely what needs doing. If you want to be a pro, do these 3 things.